Remember these guys? Babylon Zoo? You probably don't. Some people may do, but say not many. You probably may be more familiar with their song. I think it's called Spaceman. Yes, Spaceman, that was used for a Levi's commercial. At least a 15-second snippet of it was used in a Levi's commercial in the mid 90s. And you might remember a time when Levi's commercials were kind of like I don't know, a thing. And the music they used in the commercial could also be considered a thing. Another Levi's commercial I remember, and a song accompanying it, was the one that used the Shaggy song, Mr. Boombastic. Boombastic. That was a Levi's commercial, and there was another one as well that used. Um, I'm just checking it, see if I can find anything. But nothing, none of those. Oh yeah, so here we go. Boombastic by Shaggy, The Joker by Steve Miller. I think I remember that one. Spaceman, Babylon Zoo. There was another one in the mid 90s. I remember everything in black and white, the ad. Anyway, doesn't matter. Um, so the song Spaceman, when the way they use in the Levi's ad, they use a kind of electronic. They've done kind of some voice manipulation that makes it super high, going Spaceman like that, and the actual song itself is actually quite different from the snippet sample that you would hear in the commercial. That's because it's used at the very beginning, and then maybe the ending as well. I can't actually remember. And so off the back of that song, the Spaceman by Babylon Zoo, went to number one in a few countries, or certainly in the UK, because they were a British band, and yeah, it was super popular. And also no, not the US, sorry, UK. Where's the US? Did it not do it in the US? Okay, so maybe it wasn't on the US Levi's ads. It doesn't. It seems to be only certain countries. Went number one in the UK, Sweden, Scotland, Norway, Ireland, Germany, France, Finland, so on and so forth, but not the US. But it was a contemporary hit radio song in the US. So maybe. Anyway, as many bands do, when they're featured on a commercial, especially one as kind of iconic as Levi's commercials were in the 90s, that allowed them to kind of parlay it into further opportunities. And one of those opportunities was this album, The Boy with the X-Ray Eyes. Prominently featured on the cover there is the vocalist and I guess main person of the band. I don't actually know who else was in the band, but his name is Jas Mann. Jas, Jas, Man, Mann. But that is just a shorter name. His real name is Jaspinder Singh Man. So he's part Indian, Punjab, because Singh is Punjabi Indian, like that's up in the north. Actually, I don't know where it is. In the Punjab region of India, which is across the border with Pakistan as well, I think. And a lot of people from that area and who have the surname Singh are Sikh religion. I think Singh means lion. I think I've read that before. But a lot of Sikh people have the surname Singh. Anyway, so he was of Indian origin, or at least his dad was. I think his mum was British, Caucasian. Kind of looks like a mixed race, doesn't he? So they released this album, okay, and Spaceman is track 2, and this album sold okay in its first week, but then kind of dropped like a stone after that. It's not very good. Is the main reason why it didn't do well after that. It's actually quite terrible, and I don't usually say that about music that I own or even music in general. There's kinds of music I don't like in general, like I've said before, things like reggae and ska and certain kinds of modern R&B, certain kinds of dance music, I just as an overall genre thing, I find them to be boring. Um, but there usually there'll be a few songs within those genres that I do like, of course. But this is just, yeah, I don't know how else to say it. It's a bad album. The songs are very samey and not in a good way. It's not as though they had the Spaceman formula and then reused it 11 times. That's Spaceman is like really the only song that's got kind of anything resembling a hook or a kind of, a memorable melody or riff or anything like that. All the other ones are just the guy's voice is part of the problem. He's kind of got this snare to his voice, almost like Johnny Rottenish. It doesn't sound anything like Johnny Rotten, but when Johnny Rotten sung the Sex Pistols, he sung with a snare because it was a punk band, and a lot of what he was saying with sarcasm and kind of, you know, taking the piss, basically. Whereas this isn't the purpose of this guy, but he still kind of sounds like he sings with a snare, like the way he kind of tails off at the end of his things, and very garbled as well in his delivery. And then the instrumentation, the guitars, have kind of got that mid to late 90s mixture of electronic, a little bit of glam, alternative rock kind of confluence together, I guess, but it's just not good. I don't know how else to say it other than not good. The first time I listened to this, about a year ago when I first got it for 50 cents. I listened to it through the first night after I got it because I was always kind of curious about these guys because that Spaceman song, I thought, well, that's actually not a bad song. So I was never like, wow, I want to know. But, 20, 25 years later, I see their CD for 50 cents. I think I'll give that a listen. I was curious about what the rest of their music sounded like. So I put it on, and it was one of those rare CDs where I just think I struggled to get to the end of it. It was just like, oh, this is fucking awful. This is terrible. And so I had that memory of it. And so when I put it on again this week, I had a bad feeling like, oh, why am I listening to this again? So I wanted to kind of give it a second chance. My second chance wasn't as negative, as in I wasn't like having to resist pushing the stop button like I was the first time, but it was just unmemorable blur. And I was trying to listen out for kind of a song that I thought, oh, there's kind of some signs of life there, and maybe they could do something with that. Maybe the Zodiac Sign I thought was okay, and I think it's also the last song. No, song 10. It's either song 10 or 11. Is Your Soul for Sale or I'm Cracking Up, I Need a Pill. One of those two songs sounds completely different from the rest of the album, and so that kind of just having that bit of change kind of made this song stand out a bit. I don't actually even know if it was a good song or not, but it was because it was just after having 10 songs of all the same guitar tone, vocal delivery, blur, something different kind of stood out. But yeah, just not good. The CD itself, like I said, is 50 cents. The case is completely buggered, but that's to be expected. The liner notes are pretty non-existent. What do they say here? We would like to extend our thanks to all who have been involved with our moments from the outset. We hope this work is a statement to your enduring belief. Well, I don't know about that, guys, or guy. Now, I read, or was it yesterday or the day after I listened back through to it, I thought I'm going to read what they say about it, critical reception or whatever, and there was some pretty good kind of reviews, or at least kind of accounts, or what do you call it, general takes on the album. So mediocre reheated techno glam guitar rock between Ziggy Stardust and Jesus Jones. Yeah, Jesus Jones. See, Jesus Jones I actually don't mind, but it's kind of got that Jesus Jones feeling to it. Jesus Jones were like, 9 years before him, or 5 or 6 years before him. just mundane, the notionally exotic can be, don't know what that means. Outmoded melange of distorted guitars, washed out synths, and pseudo psychological sci-fi lyrics. Not a pleasant experience. Yeah, that's something I'd agree with. Not a pleasant experience. Wholly uninspired. Um, da, da, da. Unfavorable chided the album's shoddy sound and abundant gimmickry, concluding that it's hard to imagine America falling for this junk. Turgid music and dogmatic lyrics. There was a better one. Criticized the length of its tracks as excessive. Yeah, that some of the songs are over long. If they'd cut them down for a couple of minutes, it actually might have that kind of made it worse because you're just like, oh, when is this song going to end? Persistently tuneless, repetitive, and garbled. One hit wonder. Da 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 da. Sorry, I'm a bit of silence here as I read this. So, such and such praise only the chorus of Spaceman, likening the remainder of the record to being thumped on the head with a large chunk of wood, then dragged backwards through thick sludge. See, that's actually a very inventive way that kind of does represent the sound because it is so, yeah, sludgy and like boneheaded. Not like dung 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 tight and boneheaded. I just mean like so uninspired. And like I said, it's not often that I feel this way about an album overall. I can usually pick out something that I think actually there is more redeeming about this than I'm giving it credit for. But really, I think that really does, being thumped on the head with a large chunk of wood and dragged backwards through thick sludge. Anyway, they were very much a one-hit wonder band. That song Spaceman, you don't actually even hear it nowadays. You don't really hear it on the radio or anything nowadays. But it might be used in things here and there. I'm not actually sure. I honestly haven't heard that song in years. Jeez. But they didn't really do anything beyond that. Like I said, I think the album did quite well in its first week. May have even sold a couple of 100,000. But then it kind of dropped off, as you can imagine. Okay, by the end of 1996, the album had sold 750,000 copies worldwide, with its main markets in Europe, Germany, Japan, and Australia. UK sales exceeded 100,000. So, 750,000 sales for a album. They then had a second album called King Kong Groover. And that I've never heard of anything. It got 1 out of 10 from the NME, 1 star out of 5 from Scotland on Sunday, 4 out of 10 by Dot Music. So yeah, I don't know. I guess after that they kind of just evaporated. But yeah, it's always kind of interesting. Well, I don't know if interesting is the right word. Whatever word you want to describe it as, kind of digging in deeper to these kind of one-hit wonder bands, and seeing, did they deserve to be one-hit wonders? Maybe there was like a treasure trove of like undiscovered amazing music, or sometimes you do dig deeper and you realize, oh, okay, yeah, they deserve to be one-hit wonders. There ain't much beyond that one hit. But having one hit, real, that's more than 99.999% of musical artists will get. So one should feel at least some satisfaction with that, although I'm sure many don't. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, not recommended. Babylon Zoo, The Boy with the X-Ray Eyes. The album cover kind of, doesn't give you much hope, does it? Very, very late 90s, kind of sparkly, glam rave type design going on there. Yeah. We'll leave it there.